Tying up a basic warm water popper here today. This is called just a foam popper. Also seen it referred to as a cartoon foam popper. You don't know where the cartoon portion comes from. Maybe it's just the coloring of the fly. It's kind of a bright colored fly, but I've always referred to it as just a basic foam popper. If you've ever tied any poppers like this for warm water, you know that there are certain styles, or I don't want to say styles, there are certain parts and components to it: the tail, the body material, and then whatever's going to make up the popper head, and generally some rubber legs thrown in for good measure. This follows the same thing. It just uses some closed cell foam that's glued together to form the head of the fly, and it's very simple and easy to make. It's a very effective popper, and it's a lot of fun to throw. That is a basic foam popper. I get started tying. I'm going to start the foam popper, or the cartoon foam popper, whatever you want to call this, with my hooking device. This is a Tiemco 8089 and a number 6. You could use, say, a Mustad 3366 in a size 4, even a B10S, Gamakatsu B10S, probably in a size 6. It's going to be a little bit smaller than this. A size 4 would be a little bit bigger. Just depends if you're tying this to go for panfish, or whether you want tying this to go for larger bass. That's why I use the 8089. It's a little bit wider gap on the hook, so it's a great bass hook. So for thread, I'm using, this is a Wapsi 140 Denier ultra thread in a fluorescent chartreuse, and I'm simply using the fluorescent chartreuse because of the color pattern of the fly is going to be fluorescent, or a chartreuse and black. So this just kind of matches up a little bit with it. You could go with something, if you went with a different color scheme that matches that color scheme, or even put something in like a bright orange or something as a contrast. It's up to you. I'm going to attach my thread. I'm going to advance my thread down to about the point of the hook, and this is where I'm going to tie in the tail. If you've ever tied any freshwater poppers for largemouth, smallmouth bass, that sort of thing, they all have kind of a formula to them in terms of, you've got a tail back here, maybe some rubber legs, which we're going to put in, some sort of short little body, often is a palmered hackle, and then the popper head to it. This follows the same formula. For the tail, I'm using some Chartreuse Marabou for this. Now, I like to make mine with the tails a little bit fuller, so I'm taking what would look like kind of a sparse marabou hackle right here and tying this in as a tail. I want this to be about the length of the hook in terms of its length. If you have a fuller feather, by all means go ahead and tie that in, because I'm going to put in a second feather. Here's another marabou feather that I've got selected here, and this is just to add a little bit more bulk to it. Often I think the warm water poppers like this really benefit from a lot of action, a lot of material moving on the back end of it, whether this is mimicking like legs, frog legs or something like that, or bait fish, wounded bait fish on the surface or something. It just has a lot of attraction to it. For legs, I'm going to put some legs in the tail. I'm using some chartreuse and black flaked Sili-Legs here. I'm going to tie these in. These are a little bit long for this size. I want the chartreuse to stick out just a little bit beyond the actual length of the tail. If I were to tie this in the midpoint right here, almost all of that black would take up, all the space for the rubber legs. So I'm going to have to measure this and tie this in so that it's in 2 different clumps, so I get a little bit of that chartreuse sticking out behind the tail. I'll strap those in on my side. Get those wrapped in. I'm going to trim away the excess, I should say the rest. Then I'm going to tie some in on the other side, essentially the same length. If they're a little bit longer or even shorter, that's fine because we can trim up the very ends of these as the last step. I'm going to tie these on the other side. Now, if you want to use, like, say, some round rubber legs, by all means, go ahead. In this step, the round rubber legs would be fine. When we're using the rubber legs in the body, we're going to be gluing this body together on the hook shank with some super glue or cyanoacrylate, Zap-A-Gap. It's often referred to, Loctite, things like that. But it's essentially a super glue, and the problem is that super glue reacts with the rubber in your medium round rubber legs. Smoothing that off just a little bit. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we actually get to that step. Here you could put in a hackle if you want to, or you could use some kind of flash or whatever you want to fill this space up, because our body is going to come back to about a little bit more than halfway down the hook shank. I'm using this is fluorescent chartreuse Estaz. It's a standard Estaz. You could use some Palmer chenille or ice chenille, sparkle chenille, whatever you want. These have the fibers on them that stick out are a little bit longer than your ice chenille or cactus chenille, but you could certainly go with something that's a little longer, like a Palmer chenille, or even a little shorter. We're just kind of filling the space up. Or you could put a schlappen feather in here. Like I said, your basic poppers have some sort of a collar in the back. Often it's some sort of a hackle, rooster saddle hackle, or a schlappen feather. It's up to you. I'm just filling this space in a little bit. You could put in some black too if you want, just as a heavier contrast for this. It's up to you. Lashing that down, I'll trim away the excess. Now I'm going to wrap forward a little bit, smoothing this off. I'm going to add a drop of head cement to these thread wraps. Could have added some head cement on all the wraps around the tail and the legs. Just makes it a little bit sturdier. Fish are going to hit this pretty hard. It's going to get knocked around a lot, hopefully, as you're catching fish with it. So you want to take a few steps here and there to make it a little sturdier. Now right here, I'm going to put in a 3-turn whip finish. 3, 4, whatever, just to secure that thread, because we're going to remove the thread as we get what is going to be the popper part or the head of the fly on. Now this particular fly is just made with some 2mm foam strips. A lot of regular poppers have preformed heads you can put on, but that's the nice thing about this one. It's just a quick foam popper that you can buy this at any craft store, certainly at most of your fly shops, even online if you want. You're going to want to cut this so that and I've already glued these together, by the way. This is just, as you can see, a little wider strip of chartreuse and a little strip of black here. Both of these are a little wider than I want. I like to have these a little bit less than the gap of the hook. So that allows me to trim these at this point. And I'm going to, as you can see, I got a little bit of chartreuse sticking out here past that black. So I'm just going to tidy that up just a little bit, trim that off, and I have that nice and smooth and even now. And then I'm just going to trim this side here so that it's nice and straight. And by cutting off just a little bit, maybe less than 1 millimeter or so of that black, this is going to give me a Chartreuse and black strip, both of them evened up here. That's going to be just a little bit less than the gap of the hook. You could go, the gap of the hook if you want on that. Now, I find the easiest way to do the next step, we have to punch a hole in the center here, and then we have to fold it forward. Ultimately, how this ends up, we're going to end up with a body like this wrapped around the hook. Now, I could go ahead and just poke a hole in there, put that in, fold it forward, and then cut this nice and flush if you want. I usually, when I'm making these, I'll prepare my foam strips like this much longer. They could be a foot long or something like that. So what I like to do is put the end of it just right at the end of the Estaz here and just wrap this around the eye of the hook, because I want the resulting foam to be just a little past the eye of the hook here. Then when I slide this off, that's going to give me the length of the head that I'm looking for. Now I can take my scissors, trim that off. I've got the head all processed. Now, as you can see, and I do want the black in the center, when I fold this over, I have the top and bottom nice and even here. I can keep that folded over and then take my bodkin and run it right down the center here, poke it through. So it's coming right out the back in the center. And I can pretty much just push my bodkin around in here to widen that hole just a little bit more, like that. Now I'm going to, pushing the Chartreuse side back first, I'm going to push that onto the hook. As you can see, when this folds over, go a little bit further back. When this folds over, it's going to be just right in front of the eye, just a little bit. And you could trim that back if it's still a little bit longer than you like. So with the foam body in place here, I reattach my thread. Same thread, and reattach that right at the base of that foam. Now I'm going to tie in some more rubber legs. I'm using the same Sili-Legs as I had before. Get another 3 of them out here. And these also, I'm going to, this is a little bit easier if I just prep this by just cutting those right in half, because I don't want these sticking out quite as long. So I'm going to pull these back to just having a little bit of the black on the outside there. I'm going to wrap these in on one side here, and then wrap these in on the other side, measuring. And we can, if you want those real nice and even, the length, I'm usually looking for something about the length of the tail all the way back there. Seems I have an extra one in here. Oh, I accidentally tied in 4 on the other one too. So let me put that back in there. 3 or 4, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to lay these across up here. However you can get those in there, and just wrap those in so they're both on, each on the side of the hook. Now, to make it a little easier to tie around all of these that are sticking out, because what I have to do now is be able to fold this forward. I'm going to take a hair clip. You can get these at any department store or whatever online. Suit yourself, maybe raise your kids, your daughters. I'm just going to put a hair clip around this back here, holds those legs out of the way so that I can get the next step done. The next step is to put some super glue on the inside of the foam, on the black, the top here and the bottom, but I don't want to put any glue past the eye of the hook. I'll show you in just a minute. So what I want to do is, I find it's easiest if I just fold this together and press it, because as you can see, you get an impression of the hook and the eye in that foam. So I don't want to put any Zap-A-Gap, CA glue, whatever you're using. I don't want to put any of that past the eye of the hook, even just a little bit behind it. This is to glue it not only to the hook shank, but to glue it to each side, the top and the bottom. There's other glues you can use if you don't like the CA glue. Some people have bad allergic reactions to them. You could use some E6000, but you're going to need a bulldog clip or something to, once you fold it together, to pinch that and hold it together. Holding my thread out to the side, actually, I need to advance my thread forward to just a little bit, maybe half an eye length behind the eye of the hook, then holding it out to the side. I'm going to fold those two halves over. Then I can let my thread hang on the side there. I want to make certain that the two ends here are even. If they're not, and you make those a little bit long, you can always cut those to make them even. Right now, I'm just pressing those two halves together to glue the upper and lower foam together. Going to hold that for a second or so. Now, as you can see, the very front part right here is not glued together. Holding that foam in place, it's going to be hard for you to see around my hand here. What I'm doing is I'm holding the top and bottom foam in place. I'm going to wrap my thread around the foam here, and each wrap's a little bit tighter, so that what it does is it pinches that foam in. You can assist with a little squeeze there, and it pinches that foam in right behind the eye of the hook, and it causes these two pieces of foam to flare out as kind of like the face of a popper. Now, I've seen this fly tied where all of this is glued pretty much straight together, and the thread is tied off in the back here. It doesn't really flare. I like it this way because this flares out. It's also easier to tie onto your tippet. With that tied in, I'll put in my whip finish. Trim away my thread. I'm going to put some head cement. Depending on the head cement you use, if you don't have a lot of faith in it, you could put some CA glue, Zap-A-Gap right on those thread wraps. Again, some hard as hull, Dave's Flex Cement, something that's a little bit stronger, probably even a little bit of UV. And that will soak down in there and secure all that. Now we can take that hair clip off. And as you can see, my legs on the sides are all glued in. They're about the right length. I'm going to even those up just a little bit, trimming just a little bit off the ends of those. But those will all splay out and wiggle in the water just fine. Take my tail right here and just even that up a little bit. Cut that off. If you wanted to, you could even glue on some doll eyes or some 3D eyes right on the sides here. Again, I have seen this tied where the thread is tied off in the back here, and it's on a longer hook shank, probably like a R75 streamer hook, and it's glued together pretty much almost over the eye of the hook. And on the sides, because it's a little broader, they have doll eyes or 3D eyes on there. You could certainly do that if you want, or quite frankly, put some even right up on top here. I think that's probably more for the aesthetics of the fly tyer and fisherman than it is for the fish. So that is a basic foam popper. Often I've seen it referred to as the cartoon foam popper. Very simple to tie. If you have never tied any foam poppers or even warm water poppers in general, and you're a little bit confused about how the heads work and how to do that, I have some other videos out there, but this is a quick and easy way. If all you have is some closed cell foam, which is easily accessible and readily available, then this is a great little foam popper that you can tie to get out there and catch some bass and panfish with. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. And what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.